significant sort of new features. But fundamentally, the biggest change, which you guys don't see, is the back end of the system has been completely rewritten in a sort of a new programming language, which makes it much easier for us moving forward to make certain changes and work with more developers. As we've grown as a company, we've had to work out ways to be able to manage that growth. So one of the big things we've changed is in the back end, we've built a lot of the system in a new language, which is why it's now on version 2, in case anyone was interested or worried about that. As a result of doing that, though, there is some changes that we're going to talk about that we'd like you to be aware of and hopefully help us with. So just very quickly running through the agenda for today. We're going to talk through the beta site and the testing timetable and what's going to happen over the next few weeks. I'm going to introduce you to a new tool that we've discovered, which we think will make your life and our life a little bit easier, called Loom. We're then going to get into the actual features themselves. We've got the headline features, of which there's about 10 of, and then there's about another 10 smaller features that we'll have a quick run through. We're going to talk about the steering group session tomorrow with Steve, and then we've got time for questions at the end. So hopefully it should be nice and quick, nice and easy. Well, it shouldn't feel like the longest 45 minutes of your life. We'll try and get through stuff nice and quickly. In terms of important dates for your diary, a couple of things here. So tomorrow is, hang on, that should be the 22nd of June. Tomorrow, the 22nd of June, is the steering group meeting. If you've not already signed up for that, I would strongly suggest you do sign up for it, because that's your opportunity to feed into what's coming down the line. So not for this update, and maybe not in the next update, but the update after that is your chance to have your say and give us your thoughts on the kind of things you want to see us build and develop. What's good, what's bad, what can be better, all that kind of stuff. I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. The next big important date is the beta closes on the 5th of July. Now, what that actually means for you guys is this version that I'm going to show you today, this beta version, officially, we will stop taking support tickets on it on the 5th of July, which then gives us time to go and enact all those support tickets and suggestions you've made to us. So if you haven't looked at the beta site before today, and you want to make sure it works for you in your type of opportunities, in your context, in your setting, you need to do it before the 5th of July. You need to create support tickets for anything you find, any problems you find, or get in touch with us via any of the socials or any of the chat message, anything like that. If you've got problems before the 5th of July, we need to know before the 5th of July to give us 2 weeks for that provisional go live date to actually be able to launch this new version. Okay, the way we work with this beta site is we give you access to this open beta with all made up data and pretend data in there to go and have a look at it. And what I suggest you do very strongly is you create opportunities that you would create in your normal system. So if you happen to create loads of flexible opportunities, go into the beta and recreate one of your opportunities in the beta system as if you were doing it normally in your system to make sure it works as you expect. And if there's anything unexpected, create a support ticket and let us know what that unexpected behavior is. If you can't do something that you've previously been reliant on, or a feature's disappeared that you really used a lot, you've got to let us know before the 5th of July in the support tickets so we can do something about it, okay? There is time to fix stuff, there is time to change stuff, but if you leave it after the 5th of July, that gets much, much, much more difficult to do. All right, sorry to keep laboring the point, but that's kind of the big thing we want you to do after today's session is to go away into this beta site, and whatever you create normally in your day-to-day working life with Kinetic, check to make sure that you can still do that in the beta. Okay, it might mean creating a volunteer profile for yourself, and it might mean making a provider profile as well. But give it a go and let us know how you get on with that. The beta is publicly available, so please don't be using your real telephone numbers and things like that. If you can avoid doing that, put made up data in there just to be on the safe side. Okay. On the 18th, that's a Sunday night. So we tend to aim to do this around between 10 and 12 o'clock on a Sunday night. You should wake up on the 19th and the new version. Sorry, let me just straighten my camera up, it's falling over. On the 19th, Monday the 19th, you should wake up and you should have a all singing, all dancing new version of your application. Obviously, when these changes are made, even with the best test in the world, sometimes there can be issues. So if you do find anything when you turn up on Monday morning, do let us know again. Support ticket, raise a support ticket straight away, and we'll get straight onto them. Okay, we're sort of staffed up and ready to go for that. we're going to be looking to run masterclasses starting next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And those masterclasses, unlike today, where it's a sort of a high level view, we're going to pick out new features and go into them in detail and try and give some examples of user case. Now, if you can't make 2 o'clock on a Tuesday every week for the next 6 weeks, they're all going to be recorded. They're all going to be shared on social. So don't worry. If you can get there in person, brilliant. We'll be sending out links on how to do all this. It'll be on Facebook Live. But if you can get there in person, then you can interact with us. You can ask us questions, and we'll send out a timetable of what those 6 weeks are going to look like. Because some things may be more interesting to certain people than others. So not everybody might be into the scheduling tools, but you might be into some of the new brokerage features, for example. And then finally, the last one at the bottom here, we thought it'd be worth a quick update. The new iOS and Android app, all going well. We're expecting September this year. Okay, so that all going well. We're expecting the new version to be landing September this year. So just to give you a few dates for your diary there. Anybody got any questions or any worries about anything there so far? Is there anything in the chat as yet? No? Okay, great, brilliant. So, as I mentioned, we would like you to visit the beta site and give it a go. I've put both the links on the screen there. The top link is where you log in as a volunteer and provider. And the bottom link is where you can log in as an admin. To log in as an admin, you can use your existing login details for your existing application. So you don't have to create anything new to log in as an admin, but you can go along and give that a try. Now, we're trying something new. Because the product is of a certain size now, and we've got so many customers, we're encouraging you guys to help us test this new version. So what we've done is we've offered the ability for you guys to report and record any bugs you find, and any bug that you record as a support ticket in the system will act as a single entry into a £100 draw for an Amazon voucher. So if you go and find me 3 bugs as you're having a look around and you're practicing having a play around on the beta site, that'll get you 3 entries into our prize draw for a £100 voucher. Okay, so we really would like you to sort of let us know where things are working well, where they're not working well. The more support tickets you fill in, the more entries you get into the prize draw. And yeah, go create support tickets, go and give us some feedback. The tool that we're suggesting you might want to use to report bugs that you may find, and this isn't just for the beta, this is in your existing sites as well. We've discovered a new tool quite recently called Loom. Now, Loom's a really useful website because what it lets you do is create videos very, very quickly. So I'm just going to this Loom site here. I've gone to new video, record a video. You can create an account for free. It costs nothing. You've got a 5-minute record limit, but that should be enough. I'm going to start recording. I'm going to pick my screen, and I'm going to go over to this window here, and I've got a problem on here. I press this button, and I get an error message. And I've been doing this and I've been doing that. I can talk the person through. And I go to this button here and I press this and I want to do this. And I explain what my issues are that I'm finding on the screen. And then when I finish, I go back to my Loom. Where is it here? Where's it gone? That one. I've got too many things, too many windows open. Where's that Loom thing on there? Show that. Okay. Record a video, and then I can see the video I've just recorded there. And all I have to do to put that into a support ticket is copy the link, and then in the support ticket I can go create a support ticket, open a new ticket, and just drop that link in there, and that will be that video that you've just seen recorded a second ago. So where you find bugs, and I'm sure you've all had those situations where Steve has said to you, for us to be able to fix a bug, we have to be able to replicate it. Rather than you now having to describe 15 different steps to create that history of, so Steve or Rolf can replicate that bug, you can use Loom very, very quickly. It's just create a new video and off you go to be able to capture videos of what you're doing on the screen. Hopefully you'll all find that quite useful. Like I say, it's not just limited to the beta site. We're trying to encourage all our customers now to start using this within your sort of normal bug reporting on your normal applications. I hope that seems quite straightforward. If anyone does get stuck with it, then again, just give us a shout, let us know, and we can talk you through getting an account set up and whatnot. We also think it'll be quite a useful tool for doing things like, supporting your providers and supporting your volunteers. You can create very quick videos of showing people around your system. So we see lots of potentially good uses for this little tool. Okay, so back to my presentation. So we're going to go into the features, and like I say, I'm going to go through them quite quickly. Please start firing questions, and if you've got any, and I'll try my best to answer them. If there is really detailed stuff, let us know. We can always come back to you after the call. That's not a problem. So let's start with the new search page. I'm going to come along here to my beta site. And the first thing that's worth mentioning is we've got this new landing page where, unlike before, where it was a content-driven page with a header image and a body section, what we have now is just this big splash image, and it's somewhere to log in or search. A couple of things worth mentioning. We've now added a fully functional cookies setting feature here where people, so this is fully compliant with GDPR, and people can change their cookie settings as required. Close that there. Excuse me. You can still add messages for your volunteers on this front page, but the idea is it's a much prettier, much more modern style of page. If you want to retain your existing page, that's not a problem. It won't change. If you'd like to move on to this new page style, okay, you need to let us know by creating a support ticket, just saying, I'd like to move to the new page style, and we can change you over. The only caveat is once we move you onto this new style, you kind of, that's it, you're on that new style for good moving forwards. Okay, so it's not something we're going to allow people to switch back and forth to on a regular basis. But if you want to move over to this new page, I'll give you another example of a page so you can see what it looks like as well. You see another one there with the sort of the branding of Macmillan. You can see sort of examples. We think it's a bit prettier, a bit more modern, but we're not going to force anybody to change over. All new customers will be automatically put on the new style page, but existing customers, you'll have the choice. But once you make that choice, you stay with that until you otherwise instruct. Now, this new page is in keeping with a number of user interface changes we've created. So the next little set I'm going to show you is the search pages. So I hit the search button. I've not put anything in the search. It just takes a sec when I've got video conference. And you might immediately notice the page looks a little bit cleaner and there's more imagery on there. So we've taken away the events from the top of the page and moved them over to the right-hand side. We've cleaned up the filters, so they're a little bit clearer, a little bit more defined, a little bit more space around each filter. So it's a little bit easier for volunteers to see what they're filtering by. All the same search functions are in there in terms of keyword and voice and all those kind of things. So that's not changed too much in terms of the search function. It's just a bit prettier. The events have moved over to the right. And if I hit my events page there, again, we've just tidied them up a little bit. They look a little bit smarter, a little bit more white space on there. And you can see my events page with other events underneath there. Okay, come back. And on the left-hand side, we've tidied up these filters. We've added a little bit more definition in terms of between each choice. If I open opportunity, we've worked hard to try and clean up the opportunities. So it's clearer to a volunteer what the limitations are to access. And you can see this one here at the top. It says it's subject to an application process, who they need to speak to find out more information and to go and see what that provider's page. Oh, there we go. That's the joy of working on a beta. That would now take the provider's page. This is why we need you guys to do some bug checking for us there. And then in the body section here, you've still got the title, still got the description and all the extra information that you would like to have. But we've made it clearer now what the restrictions are. So we've put them in red, so BS 16, applicants will be shortlisted. We've also made much more prominent the follow feature, which means if a volunteer clicks this, they can follow this provider or follow this opportunity type. It helps us set some preferences. And by following, it will automatically email them if something new is added that matches their preferences. The map with the route finder is in there to join. We've got the we've got the alternative opportunities, and then we've got feedback that other people said about the about the opportunity. So we think we've done a good job in terms of reducing the processing it takes to read the page, if that makes sense. And we've put the join button or the register button or LinkedIn button next to where the person actually signed, next to the sessions as they're available. Now I'm logged in, so that's why I can actually join that session from here. If I wasn't logged in, that button would change to register or log in. Okay. The next big change we've made is regarding the registration pages. So I'm just going to come over here. Now, previously in Kinetic, The first step was to submit there was one single step, which was one single registration page, which was 5 steps long, and you added your email address and your password, etc., etc., etc. What we've implemented this time round is when someone adds their email address and their password, at that point, we've confirmed their email as being a valid email by sending them an email with a code in that they can then use to get to this next stage where they fill in the rest of the details. It's a lot of the same stuff that you saw before in terms of first name, last name, etc., etc., postcode, but we've reduced it from 5 steps to 3 steps, and we've taken away some of the questions such as ethnicity and disability, but they can all be switched on and added to this final section here, this third section. Okay, so we've reduced it to what you need as a minimum, and it's up to you as customers. Now, again, existing customers, you won't lose anything, nothing's going to change, but it's just this new, it'll be applied into this new process here, this 3-step process. Okay. Once a volunteer has completed all those steps and they filled in all the fields, it will take them through to their profile page, which is their dashboard here. And you can see again, we've changed a couple of things on here. Now there's an ID badge available in their profile with an embedded QR code. We've got this new feature about roles. We'll talk more about roles in a second. Achievements have been moved into this bar on the left-hand side. And training has also been moved over onto the left-hand side as well. So we've removed a number of options that was previously up in the top navigation and brought them over to the left-hand side there. So it's more consistent for the volunteer. They know everything they ever need is on this left-hand side of the page. I guess that's the first part. I'm going to stop and take a little breath. Is there any questions coming through from anybody that we should address now? It's okay.
Yeah, so a question from Janine. Sorry, Steve here. It's a question from Janine, which is a good question. So it's about the contact details. So we know we've had this discussion a few years, 2 or 3 years ago, we had this discussion about this, about how. So obviously, originally going back a number of years, we didn't advertise the contact details to the volunteers, so they were kind of all forced to do it through the system. But then we come to realize actually a lot of the time when once they're logged in, they have questions that they want to specifically ask the provider, which will influence whether they join the opportunity. And you don't want to get the administrator caught in the middle of all of that, where all these volunteers are phoning the administrator, asking the administrator to speak to the provider to find the answer. So so the thinking was we would show them the contact details of the provider, but only if they've registered on the system. So if they're registered, when they log in, they can see the contact details. If they haven't registered, then they can't. So that's the rule moving forward. Hopefully that answers that question.
Okay, anything else to address? Answering is good. Okay, no problem. I'll leave Rolf typing away. All right, so moving on to the next set of features. So we move out of the volunteer side of stuff. The key takeaways, hopefully, for you guys looking at this is it's a cleaner look. It's a nicer interface. It's an easier to use interface. It's a little bit better spaced and a little bit easier on the eye. That's what we're after for the volunteer. And there's some key sort of changes around making it easy to log hours and things like that. I'm not going to get into because they're kind of minor changes, but they should hopefully make using the system that a little bit easier for your volunteers. The next big change, one of the biggest new features I'd like to talk about is volunteer roles. So I'm going to come over to my admin pages. Come to my home page here as an admin. Now roles, the idea in Team Kinetic with roles is we know there's a number of organizations that use the system that have opportunities that have a higher level of governance associated with them. They have more involved onboarding, more complex onboarding that Kinetic wasn't quite able to offer exactly what they wanted. So what we've worked, oh, my camera's off again. What we've decided to do is we've created a feature called roles. Now, what a role is, it's a series of requirements. So I'm just going to set up here and show you where the roles are. So we go to setup, roles, and I'm going to add a role. And I can create a role, which might be befriending. Excuse my bad typing. So we're going to add that role, give it some description. And it might be that there's a number of tasks that volunteer's got to complete before they can complete stage 1 of the befriending onboarding process. And then stage 2 might be some additional tasks. It might be shadowing an existing volunteer. It might be doing some training. And then stage 3 might be some additional requirements, might be filling in some paperwork. And you can decide whether or not the volunteer can complete this themselves, or whether or not it's something that has to be signed off by a admin level user. But the idea is you can create a onboarding process that is associated with a role. And then when you create your opportunities, you can associate an opportunity with a role. So there we go, we've got a role, and only volunteers that have attained that role designation will be able to access that opportunity. And volunteers that tried to do that, that hadn't retained that role designation, will be signposted into that workflow to be able to undergo that particular role designation. It allows us to create a much more customized onboarding process at an opportunity level. It means that we don't have to, that you guys don't have to replicate if roles are replicated across the organization. We have got some ideas around, this is the first iteration of this particular improvement. So we've got a number of ideas of where we're going to go with next on this. And I'm sure if you do come to the steering group meeting with Steve tomorrow, there may be some of the things that get touched on as well. But the idea is that that we're looking at things like templates and templating roles and opportunities, and where we might be able to remove certain options and things like that. But there's a whole world of development that we're going to look around roles. But this first iteration of it will give you this ability to create roles, create onboarding with roles, create particular messaging that goes along with that onboarding, and be able to track people's progress through that onboarding. So I come over here to my roles applications, and I go to manage. I'm able to see where people are up to in the various stages, what they've completed, what they may not have completed, if they start it and they complete it, those kind of things. And I can deny or allow an applicant to complete the process. But you can sort of check where people may be getting stuck in certain parts of your onboarding for role-specific opportunities. Like I say, it's a new feature. It's quite a big feature. We don't envisage it will be perfect first time, so we'll be really intrigued to get your feedback. But we hope it's a big step in the right direction with regards to those type of opportunities that are a little bit higher in terms of compliance and governance. So we'd be really interested to hear what you guys think about that. Moving on from roles, we've got some new scheduling features. So if I go to my opportunity list here, and I find my session with, where did I put it? Session op, I think, was that the one I had? I think it was. Excuse me. So now, we'd had some feedback that it took a long time to be able to move volunteers to and from sessions, because you either had to add them individually to sessions or add sessions individually. So it was problematic if you wanted to move groups of people. So if we go to add volunteers here, I can show all my current volunteers, and I can move them across to my checked volunteers, and I can say all these volunteers are actually going to be on all these sessions here. Not going to be on that one, but they're going to be on the one below it. There we go. And I can add people to sessions or remove people on bulk to sessions very, very quickly. So I can move one volunteer onto multiple sessions, multiple volunteers onto multiple sessions, or multiple volunteers onto one session. That should hopefully, I don't know if any of the guys have been doing the vaccine volunteering, but hopefully that should make your lives a little bit easier, moving people around that bit quicker. You can see there now, there are the two volunteers there, and there, and there. Okay. Has anybody got any questions about those two big changes? Because they're both quite significant. As a volunteer, okay. So if I'm logged in, if I'm not logged in as a volunteer, 1 second. So I'm just going to, so they would land at the normal page, go to the search page. I think I'll have to log out. Let me log out first. Doesn't look a million miles different, Alison, I don't think. I'm just going to log out and then go to search. And if you go to an opportunity, rather than having sign up button, I've now got the register login button. And that's fundamentally the biggest difference. There is other differences to do with what it will present search-wise, because if you're not logged in, it doesn't know who you are, so it will present opportunities by newest first. If I'm registered and logged into the system, then it knows who I am, it knows where I live, so it will display opportunities based upon closest proximity to me. So depending on sort of your status, whether you're logged in or not logged in, there is some subtle changes that it's hard to notice from the naked eye with regards to what the system will show. But the key difference is when I'm not logged in, again, who I can speak to, as Steve rightly said, that information has now disappeared because I'm not logged in. And to apply or register, I now have to go through the process. Is that okay? Okay, fine, great. Anything else that's popped up there? Okay, great stuff. So I'm going to come back to my admin page, and we're going to talk about the application dashboard. Application dashboard. So go back to my opportunities here, and I'm going to have a little look at apply A. Where was my apply? There he is. Apply A. Now, we've had feedback from customers that it could be a little bit confusing when it came to applicants as to who've been accepted, who've been refused, who are still pending. So what you have here is your new applicants waiting approval at the top, and you can approve and deny. So if I approve this top one, press OK there. They're now in the approved applicants there. And if I deny somebody, I'll deny the next one. OK. There now, give it a second to refresh in the denied applicants. But if there is a problem, let's say I've made a mistake, I can revert them back to their original status very, very quickly. So it just makes it a little bit easier to deal with your applied and your applied applicants. We're going to move quickly on from there onto the multiple provider option. So another piece of feedback we've been given over the years was it can be problematic that there's only one email address associated with a provider account. Now, what you can do is if I log in as a provider, and I've got one, here's one I prepared earlier. Just go back to my home page of this provider. I can go to the account settings now in the provider page and go to users, and I'm able to add an additional provider account. So where you've got organizations, VIOs or departments where there's more than one person managing that provider account, you can now add an additional account. There is some caveats, okay? There's still only one email address, and that'll be the first account that's added, which will receive emails from the system. Okay, so it's not, they don't get the exact same experience when you add additional accounts, but they can at least access the system. They can at least access the provider account when you create a profile for them. We think that'd be quite a useful addition, but again, we're quite keen to hear what your thoughts and feedback are on that as we move forward. The next big improvement on the admin side, I'm going to go back to the admins here, is meetings. Now, if I go to my search volunteer page, I can click on a volunteer individually, and I go to book a meeting option. I can select select volunteers. But when I go to the book meeting page, traditionally in Kinetic, you could only book one meeting, and that was it. We changed that now. You can have numerous meetings, as many meetings as you want with volunteers. You can add a time. That won't work. Okay, you can give the meeting a title or a reason, give some details. We've now changed as well the fact that you can be virtual, and you can add a Zoom link or a Google link or a Teams link in there, or face-to-face, and you can put an address in there. And you can also add some extra text in here that will be added to the email when the meeting's booked. This doesn't replace the booked meeting custom email that's up in your super admin. This is in addition to, okay? Once we book the meeting, so we go, we'll put that meeting there. I can go along here to my meetings option page, and I can see the meetings I've booked, and I can cancel them. I can edit them and change them if I wanted to. And if I go to the volunteer's profile, take a second, I can see the history of the meetings in there, and I can also add another meeting from there as well. So we're hoping that that makes that meeting function that much more useful. In conjunction with the meetings, under the private notes section, you can also now add files to private notes. So we think that'll be quite a useful addition as well if you've got application forms or other private documentation. We think that's quite a nice little extra in there in terms of being able to have that extra layer of data and information on your volunteers. Under opportunities, you've already seen on the search page that the opportunities now have the ability to have an image in there. So I'm going to create an opportunity. And we also talked about roles, so the iteability to link a role to an opportunity. We've got another addition on the opportunity, which is badges. And again, it's the first iteration of this improvement. So there's going to be room for further improvements down the line, and we'd be really keen to hear your thoughts on some of this stuff. But this idea of opportunity badges are nominal badges that you can create associated with an opportunity. And a user case might be you have an opportunity that's well suited for Saltaire, for our Scottish customers, or an opportunity that's really well suited for Duke of Edinburgh, or an opportunity that is particularly well equipped for dementia sufferers, or any other sort of characteristic that the opportunity well suits. You can create badges in your super admin menu up here in setup. You can add your own iconography to those badges here, and you can then associate those badges with opportunities. Like I say, it is the first iteration, so there's a couple of things you can't do yet. We'd be interested to hear your thoughts about what you'd like to see that you'd be able to do with those badges. But as an initial step, it's a really nice way to have a really good, strong visual cue as to why an opportunity is particularly well suited to a particular audience. If there's any other ideas how they might be used, we'd love to hear them as well. So yeah, keep talking to us on that. In terms of on my list here of other cool stuff, I'm not going to go through this so much on the screen, but I'm going to talk about it quite quickly because I'm aware that we're already 37 minutes in. So multiple groups are now selectable from the bulk email screens. In the past, you could only select one group, whereas now you can have, if you do use the group feature to group your volunteers together in comms groups, you can now select multiple groups and send the emails out to those multiple groups. We've talked about the private notes, which is going to be useful. Course management's been improved. I'll very quickly jump over to course management for, where's my, there. If I go to impersonate this volunteer, we've moved the course management into the side menu. So it's just a little bit easier. Let me go impersonate that user there, take a second. So we've moved it from the top bar down to the left-hand side. We've made it a little bit easier to use, a little bit prettier, a little bit easier on the eye. Sorry, just take a second or two when I've got screen sharing on. But if we come down here now, there's courses, where are my courses? Where's courses gone? Training, it's under training, there we go. Thank you, Steve. And it's in there, and I can go and open up that page, and you know, it's just a little bit more straightforward for the volunteer to use. We've improved the number of options you've got available in the setup pages. Now, again, through feedback from you guys about things that you'd like to be able to switch on and switch off, we've basically put more switches in there. Part of the documentation that we'll do for this release will cover all those additional switches, so you guys can make an assessment as to whether or not the features and functions that will make a difference to the way you want to operate, and whether or not you want those features switched on or switched off. More opportunity sharing data along with suggestions of organisations you might want to join forces with. One of the unique features of Team Kinetic is its ability to talk to other Team Kinetic sites. It's something that a number of our customers take advantage of, and we think more probably would if they knew what was available around them. So what we've done is we've added the ability here for admins to come down to this shared opportunities choice, and this will show them systems that are close to where they're based. And then you can make the decision as to whether or not you want to get involved with these other organizations and share opportunity data and potentially share volunteers. I'm not going to get too bogged down in the detail of how all this works. If you think it's a feature that you might want to use, I would suggest we maybe book in a 20-minute call, go through the ins and outs of how it all works, and we can potentially set up some calls with those associated systems to explore whether it's something that would be mutually beneficial to both organizations. very, very simply put, it just makes it very, very easy for you to share opportunity information out beyond the bounds of your own Team Kinetic system into those systems that you think might be well suited to share with. Volunteers can see how many slots are available in each session before they join. We had a number of customers feedback that they thought it'd be useful for volunteers to be able to see which of the sessions were full and which of the sessions were quiet, so they can make their own choices. I think, again, that might have been some of the vaccine centres that had shared that with us. So hopefully that you'll find that quite useful. Induction questions are now sortable, so you're able to move your induction questions around. They're not in a set list. You can move them up and down based on your needs. New reporting showing ethnicity breakdown of active volunteers was another one that was requested. New opportunity search filters, and then there's millions and millions, well, I say millions, hundreds and hundreds of smaller fixes in there as well. I'm just trying to remember, new opportunity search filters, remember what we actually said that covered. Rolf, can you remember what, you know what that covers, but I can't remember what that actually was regard. Yes, I do remember. Sorry.
For admins, not for volunteers.
For admins, yeah, I was confused myself. Here we go. So under opportunities, we've added additional filters in here now. Opportunities with pending applications, created by provider pods, things like that. So we've added additional filters in here by which you can filter your opportunity data. We're nearly there. I'm sure you're all glad to know. All that's really left for me to cover now is tomorrow's session with Steve. If you're not already signed up to be part of the steering group, like I say, we don't force it, we don't make you do it, but we'd love to get your thoughts and feelings on the direction of travel that Team Kinetic takes. And as we've grown as an organisation, we've sort of had to try and formalise this process a little bit more. And the steering group, this will be the second one we've run. It's our sort of our attempt at trying to gather useful sort of insight and data from you guys as to the kind of things you'd like to see us build. Steve, do you want to just very quickly explain what tomorrow's going to cover?
Hi. Yes. So basically, it's going to have obviously introductions. I'm going to talk a bit about what we're going to be covering. Then we're going to, because it's our first session time really running this steering group in this kind of format, we are keeping it. I plan to keep it very kind of high level. And the first big chunk is going to be we're going to do some polling where we're just trying to get feedback from yourselves in regards to what things you find easy, what things you find hard. And then when I'm going to obviously drill down, if we do see particular things that you find hard, I'll be asking questions and trying to gather more information about the detail about exactly why it's hard. I plan to look at reports at the end. I'm going to focus on one area. I think it's going to be should be reports. I think that's what I'm planning to do. So yeah, that's one of the next kind of major updates we're going to be doing is revamping the reporting libraries. So yeah, we're going to kind of bashing our heads together and talking about, you know, what questions we want the system to answer in regards to our volunteering program, which is essentially what the reports come down to. What questions do you want the system to answer? So yeah, so it should be very interesting, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow.
So if you've not booked on, the link I believe is in the chat, which is good. It's just left for me now to open the floor to questions. I plan to go for about 45 minutes and I've gone 44, which is unheard of for me to actually stick to time. So we're going to be staying around for the next 15 minutes. If people do need to dive off, I totally appreciate that. But if people do want to stay around and just pepper us with questions, then between myself, Rolf, Steve, and the guys here in the office, we shall do our best to answer them. Anything that's come through on the chat?
The beta site, Flora's asked about the beta site. When you log in as admin, you'll see the notification panel comes in from the right-hand side, and there's a link there to the beta site. It's basically beta.teamkinetic.co.uk. And if you want to log in as admin, it's beta.teamkinetic.co.uk/vk/admin. Thank you, Rolf, for putting that on the chat. So yeah, you'll either see it in the notifications panel when you log into the to your own system. You'll see it there with a link, or you can see it there. It's in the chat here. So that will take you right the way through. Login, as Chris said before, login using just your normal admin. Although it's a different system, it's a beta system, we've set it up in a way to make it as easy as we can. So use your normal admin login details. And if you have a problem with that, then give us a ring, and yeah, and I'll help you get logged on.
Okay, anything else? Yes, you can. That's the whole idea of that sort of that roles section, is that you can create quite intricate and in-depth onboarding processes as required, which could be resources and requirements and training. Some things might be things that volunteers can do for themselves. Some things might be things that are done to volunteers. But the idea is that that should all be in there. Like I say, it's the first iteration. So if there is something we've missed that you would like to see, please pop it on a support ticket and let us know how we can improve that feature set for you. Any more? If you want to shout out the questions and turn the mics on, we're at that point. It's feel free.
Janine Richardson, on the creator provider, it has insert pod. What does this mean?
Yep.
So the pod, those who have, so we have different versions of the system. I don't get too confusing because most of you are not on a pod system, but some of our customers, larger customers, are on a pod system. All a pod system is, most of you just ignore what I'm about to say, but if you, all a pod system is an extra layer of privileges where we have admins at the top, then we have pod admins. So if you imagine a local authority, county council or something like that, then they're big enough, they have enough users where they say, actually, we don't want every admin to be able to see and change every opportunity and every provider. We want this admin to deal with these providers and their opportunities, and this admin to deal with these providers and their opportunities. So we created an extra privilege level called pod admins. So a pod might be sport, another pod might be libraries, another pod might be neighborhoods. And then you have pod admins for each of those pods, and they're responsible for just their providers, which have been assigned to them. Related to sport, for example, and any opportunities that their providers create. So it's an extra layer of users called pod admins. That's what a pod system is. So you're going to see a few things on this beta site. You're thinking, what on earth's that? Because on the beta, we have to test everything. We have to kind of open up all of the options. So there's a few things on there. You'll be like, oh, what on earth's that? And it's just because we've had to make it as we have to set it up in a way where you can see every single field on all the pages. So it does feel a little bit overwhelming, but if you're not sure, don't worry about it. The chances are your system won't be set up for that particular type of system, if that makes sense.
Steve?
Yep.
Quick question for you. I had a cursory glance at the beta site this morning and went on as if a provider to register a new provider. And what I noticed, there's quite a few bits of information missing. There's nothing on there around about organisation policies, or whether it's a private, third, public sector, or there's no space there either for the organisation to give a small write-up about what the aims of their organisation, etc. Can I ask why that's been taken off? One of the reasons when we look at it with the policies, that tells us as a volunteer centre what that organisation has, and then we can go back and work with them should they need, any other policies.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm completely on board and agree with everything you're saying there. Those questions that are added onto your particular system, they're custom questions that only your organisations, WCVA organisations, see. So they're set up specifically for your system. That's why you're seeing them on your system, but no one else has those questions. They might have different questions. They might ask for what t-shirt size they are or anything else. So that's just a custom setting for your particular system, and that will still remain on there.
Right. Okay. Lovely. Thank you.
Okay. No worries. Anything else?
Have we got any more for any more?
We've just launched Team Kinetic for Volunteers. Will it look very different if we keep our original front page? Lots of new orgs too, so this may be confusing. Will it look different? I mean, it does look different, obviously, as we can see. It's up to you which front page you choose to use. I think for me, it's obviously the new one's much cleaner and it looks more modern, and it's just a slicker experience. So I don't think anyone can really argue with that. I suppose the pros and cons. The cons would be, well, there's no space to put a video in there or put anything in underneath the search bar. That's the only downside I can see. There's no footer there, so if you had anything fancy in the footer, like the tweets and things like that, I don't think
in response to the confusing part for Joanne, though, it's an evolution, Joanne, rather than a revolution. So the changes are subtle. The user may notice them, but it shouldn't be anything that's so fundamentally different that it's shocking to them. If you keep your old page, that's fine. Keep your old page. If you want to do that, that's not a problem. If you want to move to a new page, again, it's pretty clear because there's only 3 things to press on that new page: log in, register, search. So it's not. I don't think you have to worry about people getting lost per se. I don't think it'll be so jarring that, like I say. But it's up to you. You could stay with the old. You can stay with your the old style page if you wish. We're not going to force anybody to change. We're going to maintain both versions for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of worry as well. Just reading through the comments about. I'm aware that the roles is quite a complex kind of thing to get your head around at the start. In reality, what the roles is kind of a prerequisite. So you're setting up. So before we used to have the applying opportunities. They'd apply and then people would apply for it. Then we'd say, well, okay, they have to do whatever hoops you need them to jump through. But at some stage, you're going to click on the approve. It's a bit like that, but it's allowing you to define the hoops. And essentially saying, if they've gone through these hoops, then it means not only can they get on this opportunity, but they may be able to get onto other opportunities which require the same role or set of hoops they have to go through. That's all it is. But if you don't create any roles in the system, then that's it. You'll never see. Everything will carry on exactly the same. So you have to learn anything new. It's only if you say, oh, actually, that would be useful. I want to create roles. That's fine. If you don't, then when you create an opportunity, you won't have the option to choose a role, or you won't even know anything about the role. So you'd have to worry too much. It's not going to be so much of a, it's not going to be a real worry for you come go live. You're not going to be suddenly presented with a load of stuff that you don't know how to use.
Our feeling is that the volunteer centre users, the CVS users, are probably not going to use roles very much because your opportunities on the whole tend to be adverts for other organisations, and you're not on the whole acting as the recruiting organisation, that they do it themselves. So you don't necessarily have to worry so much if you're that type of organisation. You can carry on just using the ops. But for the organisations that we work with that are sort of single entity organisations, generally speaking, that have got a lot of their own stuff and it's quite complicated, then the roles really comes into their own, where they've got quite difficult onboarding processes with a number of steps that people have to go through. So as with all things in Kinetic, it's not enforced. You don't have to use it. It's one of the things you can choose to use or not use. And as Steve rightly said, if you don't use it, it doesn't appear. People don't see it. I think it's worth, Rolf, is it worth having a quick chat about the WYSIWYG editor for email? Do you want to have a quick explanation of what you mean by that?
Yeah, I'm just going to try and do a Loom video now so I can get around to people. It's not super easy. But I'll do the Loom video and I'll send that around afterwards. But what you're looking for when you go to the bulk email, and you have that message section, which looks a bit like a Word sort of
Let me bring it up here. So there we go. Am I sharing my screen still? Can everyone see
Yep.
that? Yep.
So the icon you're looking for is that little picture icon in the second row at the start. And it's a 2-step process. So you have to you use that where it says upload. So you go to the upload tab, find the picture you want to add, and upload it. And then it'll stick it in the message automatically where your cursor was.
Oh, James's head's looking a bit stretched out there.
You can set the sizes and stuff, so you can lock it and change the ratio and those sorts of bits and bobs. So if you press OK now, that'll appear in the message in the size you selected, which is 1,000 by 1,000 pixels.
It's a big one, yeah.
If they're large, if they're documents you want to add, it's best to upload them as an attachment. Because it's a lot quicker and takes up so much space. But yeah, you can add pictures there, and depending on your, there's a certain amount of abilities for lining them up and moving them around and things like that.
So the question was about making the emails more attractive that you could send out from the system. Does that help with people, or would it be helpful if we created a little video explaining some of the features around that using Loom? People like that?
Yes, please.
Okay, no problem. Okay.
I've also been experimenting with you know, the weekly emails you get, which have that nice sort of surround around the emails, and it picks up your key menu colors and stuff like that. I've also been experimenting with using that as a sort of wrapper. It hasn't worked out yet, but I'm looking to try to do that, which will obviously make them look a bit better.
Okay.
That's not the actual content, that's just the sort of wrapper around it.
Claire's come in here. I'm just setting up a new volunteering beta site to test. What are the 3 different titles, please, on and final page? Long name fields. So they basically just test fields for custom fields for us. So you can just put any bits. Should we just take them out, guys, or rename them? We'll just rename them on that beta so it's less confusing for people. Sorry, the beta site we've got you testing on is the same beta site that Steve does all his testing on. So it's at times a little bit up the wall because it's all built for testing and not using per se. So there is weird stuff like that. Please do let us know, and we'll try and make it a little bit more user friendly. We do apologise. Is there anybody else got any burning questions that they'd like to ask us while we're all on? I'll take that definite silence that you're all wowed by the new features that come in, and I just want to thank you all for your time. We appreciate you're all really busy, and the last thing you want to be minded with is us sort of telling you about stuff that you just want it to work and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully over the next few weeks you will be able to join us for some of these masterclasses on a Tuesday afternoon. If you can't join us in person, you can always pick up the sessions on our Facebook, on our various socials, but they'll be on our Facebook group and whatnot. Obviously, if you can get here, you can feed into it and you can give us your thoughts. And if you can't make it, just buy a support ticket or get on the chat and speak to us. And hopefully, this will make your lives a little bit easier for the next few months. As I mentioned, the new apps are on the way, so that'll be our next big release, which will be sort of September time. If anybody's got any thoughts about what we do next, make sure you're at this steering group session with Steve tomorrow. And thank you again, and hopefully speak to you all soon. Take care.